We have a guest joining us now for our next conversation, which we want to look at the state of Kenya's county assemblies. We know there are 47 county assemblies. Okay, so the organization of the county government is a county executive, which is headed by the who? By the governor. And then there's a county assembly, which is headed by the who? By the speaker. So those two form the county government. Whenever we talk about county governments, we only focus and concentrate so much on the governor's office. We actually forget about the county assemblies themselves. Only moments we talk about county assemblies are when, county assemblies have rejected the governor's nominees for various positions. County assemblies have told the governor where. Utajua ni sisi ni nani. And then they have those discussions. Now, the chairman of the County Assemblies Forum, which represents all the 47 county assemblies, is in the studio. He is the Honorable Philemon Sabule, who is also the Speaker of the County Assembly of Elgeyo Marakwet. Good morning.
Good morning.
Karibu sana to the hot seat of the situation.
Thank you so much.
Habari ya EMC?
EMC ni kuzuri. Still fighting the issue of banditry, kidogo. But we are grateful that the government is taking efforts to combat the situation.
Very good. What's the headquarters of Elgeyo Marakwet County?
E10. That is the headquarters of all the athletes and runners in this country.
It's the home
the home
champions.
Yes, home
right. So it's actually in E10.
Yeah, E10. E10 is about 45 kilometers away from Eldoret.
Yes.
Yeah, towards Kabarnet.
Into that very scenic road between Iten and Kabarnet.
It is.
There's no other road like that in Kenya. Actually, no, not even in Nigeria.
And Iten is truly a very high altitude area.
Right. Huko hewa ya huko mnakuja ile.
Ile number 1.
Okay. Honorable Speaker, now introduce us to the County Assemblies Forum. What is it?
Yeah, very well. So to start with, my name is Philemon Sabule, Speaker of Elgeyo Marakwet County Assembly and the Chairman of County Assembly Forum. And County Assembly Forum, commonly known as CAF, is a coordinating body of all the county assemblies across the country. We represent them in all affairs at the national level, and we are also a lobby group on affairs of all the county assemblies. So I'm very happy to be here today so that Kenyans and all of us are able to understand really what are these roles of members of county assembly. What do they do so that, as you said, people do not just remember that there's county assembly whenever there are issues with the governor. County assemblies does a number of issues that are stated in the law. It's a law-making organ in the counties. They do the oversight. They represent their people. They pass the budgets. They engage in public participation on projects in our communities. They also approve key government officers like CCs, chief officers, members of the board, and those other senior officers in the county. So the county assemblies really play a very integral role towards entrenching devolutions and supporting county governments in this country. In fact, I would dare say, without county assemblies, there'll be no county governments.
Very well put. You know, we talk about the National Assembly being a budget-making parliament.
Yeah.
Would we just say the same about county assemblies?
Yes, because county assemblies are a replica, 100% replica of what the National Assembly does. National Assembly appropriates funds for the national government. The County Assembly, on the other hand, looks at the functions of the county governments as enshrined in our constitutions. And what that does now is to ensure that the county government only appropriate and uses funds as passed in the budget. So all that budgeting process, which is currently ongoing, and which culminates into the passage of budget in the month of June, is done by the county assembly, and nothing can be expended in the county government unless the county assembly has passed. If there are any variation, then they have to do supplementary, budget. That tells you that the role of that MCA is very important for the growth of devolution, because if they don't understand their role in budget making process, if they cannot conceptualize the projects that the county government or the county needs to prioritize for that financial year, then it means there will be a big problem. So to an extent that they guide the expenditures and the budgeting process for that financial year, then that places members of county assembly in a very important, position and role in this devolution. And that's why sometimes here there is a bit of push and pull between the county assembly and the county executive. Why? Sometimes priorities differ. As a member of county assembly, they represent the voice of Mwananchi in that particular setup ward. And when they come to the county government and the county assembly for that matter, they want to speak up the priorities that meets the needs of the people.
Mm-hmm. Before we even look at the politics of it, because, it's still, even though it plays this, representative and oversight role as the assembly, the politics of the day can almost not be removed from it completely. But let's look at the decade of devolution and how it has been with this system. How would you say that the county assembly system has fared so far in the roles that you've described? If you were to put it on a scorecard, what would it look like in what it was meant to do?
We are now in our 10th year since devolution came to be in this country. And I know that structures were not there both for the county assemblies and the county governments. The appreciation of the roles, even by the MCAs themselves then, was not as clear as it is today. The understanding by the county government as what is the legal mandate and the position of the county assemblies was not as clear as it is today. In fact, in 2013, some county governors were forgiven for thinking that county assembly was a department in the county government, which is not the case. It's a totally independent institution. Even the people themselves, Wananchi, which I still think there's a problem, they still really do not appreciate what the MCAs does for them in the county government. They still believe that perhaps they are employees of the governor and they report to the governor, and that they are very happy when it is heard that MCAs are working very closely with the governor, because they don't really appreciate really the legal mandate and the position of the members of county assemblies. But be as it may, I must, and so happily, state that devolution has grown in this country. County assemblies, structures, the competency of the members, the capacity of the members to appreciate and deal with the roles of members of county assembly has grown so much that I will tell you, even today, you can never really dissociate or have any difference between a member of county assembly, member of a national assembly, member of senate, and governor. And I will tell you this. Today, there is a person who was an MCA in 2013 and 2017 who is now a governor. There's a person who was an MCA in those formative years. They are now senators. Others are even former senators. We have a number of others who are PSs. Those who are speakers or MCA are now PSs. We have today my colleagues who are speakers of county assemblies who have been members of National Assembly. There are those who have been deputy governors and they are now speakers. We have women senators who have come to be women MCAs. That tells you that we have grown so much that really being in the county assembly is not subservient to any other law-making body in this country. The laws that are churned today from county assemblies are so important that they speak truly to the functions of the county governments. The oversight roles, as you've always heard here and there, is so robust that I would even dare say the oversight role of members of county assembly is more pronounced than that of the National Assembly. Perhaps that's because they have an area of focus that puts them really to focus on those areas that they want to do in their counties. So in a scale of 0 to 10, I will put it at 7. Why? There are challenges everywhere, and we cannot be an exception as county governments or county assemblies. We have a serious limitation of resources. Members of county assembly, as I've said, people don't appreciate their roles. When today there is a barrier, they expect a member of county assembly to do the entirety of the financial obligations. When there is a fundraiser for a child to go to kindergarten, that is the role of member of county assembly. And so members of county assembly are overwhelmed because the society do not really appreciate and understand their unique roles in supporting the legislation, oversight, and issues relating to the running of county governments.
Do you think they understand their roles? And I ask that with all intent.
The MCAs,
The MCAs
yes.
themselves.
The MCAs,
do they understand the
yes.
length and breadth of the role in terms of what they're supposed to be doing in the assembly vis-a-vis this social enterprise that they deliver to the people?
The work of a politician is a very complex role. The fact that members of county assembly understand their roles cannot in any way be an excuse for them not to do other roles which are not theirs, including now the social roles that we spoke about. And that even explains why there's a very high turnover of members of county assemblies in this country. Because in as much as you are doing very well in lawmaking processes, oversight, vetting and all those responsibilities, at the end of the day, the yardstick that Mwananchi will look at you really is when we had a barrio, did you come? When we had this social event, were you there? When we had this fundraiser in our church, did you participate? And as much as we have tried to support members of county assembly oversight, in terms of capacity building, trainings and all those activities, we still believe that there's a lot of civic education to be done on the community for them really to understand that the bigger roles of these members lies in their offices, in their headquarters.
Well, Shima, let me ask you this question, if I may. Yeah? When people come to seek assistance, whether it's for a child who's going to kindergarten or for a funeral, is it that they come because they think this is the role of the Mheshimiwa, or is it that they actually have a need?
One, they actually have a need. Two, there are very many people in society who can offer that as support. But more often than not, it is only that Mheshimiwa that society sees as the person whom they have a closer support from.
I asked the question because it's leading to the next question I wish to ask. How do you get the Mheshimiwa to see themselves as change agents? Because members of National Assembly say the same things. So long as you're a Mheshimiwa. But if we just pause and look at the situation realistically and look at who the Kenyan is before he becomes a Mheshimiwa and what this Kenyan does so that he's made a Mheshimiwa, the situation they find themselves in, they have participated very actively in ensuring that that situation not only exists, it's promulgated, it's encouraged. That's why I asked the question, how do we get the Mheshimiwa to understand that they can be the change agents? That all these things, because if you're born in a community, you will know the needs. How do you get this community to be able to handle these issues in a structured, organized way without necessarily asking you, the one person, to do something which you can never actually ever be able to do?
And Prof, at the end of the day, really, it has to do with the culture of the society. And I'm imagining as an agent of change, if we were to find a very unique way of supporting the communities to also support themselves, be able to manage their own affairs, have continuous income so that, those small economic issues and expenditures they're able to sort for themselves, that will really be very important as agents of change from us as leaders. But you realize that for this to happen, it's a factor of time. It's a factor of time. It calls for stakeholder participation. It calls even for support from the national government. I've heard them talking about the hustler, the support of the hustler fund and such. Because that's where the problem is. Because if our people were fairly empowered economically, really, then you will not need to... They will not need to be pestering Mheshimiwa every now and then.
Let me ask you
on issues of personal.
Let me get
concerns.
to the brass tacks and ask the question. People saying Elgeyo Marakwet. Okay. I grew up in Tambach as a child.
Very well. That's my home.
Okay.
Yes.
Are they able to feed themselves on a daily basis, or are they not able to feed themselves on a daily basis?
A community like Tambach, they will truly be able to feed themselves.
They can feed. Yes, they can feed.
And actually, they do.
They do.
Yes.
Because it isn't a semi-arid place. They can feed themselves. So now, the hop to now being able to also earn money, because they do have means of livelihoods. They do have cattle. They have something beyond just what they eat on a daily basis. Because very many people also send their children to school. They may look for a bursary, but they send the I'm trying to say, some of the situations that we find ourselves in, we do because we are participants in that process. And we are enablers of that particular process. And unless somebody's helped to understand how to get themselves out of that process and also ensure that the people they represent actually benefit and move forward. Because the situation we're discussing, if that isn't done, 10 years from now, we're going to be having the same discussion. 20 years from now, we're going to be having the same discussion. Okay? Now, you are a lawmaking group, the county assemblies. How many legislative agendas have you looked at, and how many laws have you passed to increase what you may call on-source revenue? Because there's a discussion that the Auditor General always brings up, on-source revenue within counties and other government agencies, on-source revenue. Because how to ensure that this cake that you have within the county is divvied up? If you make the laws, then you can make the laws that suit the people. After all, you do make laws, don't you? Now, are people well trained enough to understand how to make these laws and how to ensure that these laws are not just for today and tomorrow, but the things that look into the future? Because that's what the law is supposed to do. It's supposed to look into the future. I'm belaboring this point for a simple reason. The change agents for this country and for it to actually move forward are the people you represent, the MCAs, because they are the leaders who are at the grassroots. Yes. And if they don't lead that charge, then these changes we keep talking about will never happen. But they have to change first.
Very well. I think you have a point. And I think that's the missing link in how now the leadership, and not just MCAs, even members of parliament, even senators, women rep, because all of them are parliamentarians in some sense.
Bro, we have you here.
Yes, for the members of county assemblies. So, and I think that's a challenge.
The reason why I'm so focused is because of the importance that MCAs have. Forget these other people. The person who represents the so-called the Mwananchi is the MCA. This is the person.
So what is it that county assemblies can do to shift this mindset?
It is it falls within the mandates of the members of county assemblies because one, in terms of budget making processes, if members of county assemblies can focus on areas really that can support enterprises amongst the people, so that they're able to meet some level of financial and economic support, that will work very well. And even City mentioned about the issue of the on-source revenue. County assemblies, every year after passage of the budget in the month of June, there is a Finance Act that comes 90 days, thereafter. And this can be some of the sources in which if we put our money to support the enterprises in the communities, perhaps that can give them a bit of economic strength. In Elgeyo Marakwet last year, because I have the benefit of having been a speaker, previously again, we came up with the Women PWD and Youth Fund. What this does is that every year we appropriate some amount of money in each ward, and we have a department that guides youth and the youth groups within those particular communities to engage in enterprise activities. And what I've seen in a number of wards, not all of them, is that it has grown so much so that, you have groups and young people and women who have been able to make a living out of it.
Yeah.
What that does is that at least in addition to what they would have done on themselves, the county governments and the county assembly has done something that, liberates them, economically. Two, apart from the issue of the lawmaking process, the allocation of resources annually, of course, though there's a limitation of resources. I think if we allocate resources that speaks to the support of economies within our communities, that will help. In Finance Act, though we put a lot of taxes just for collection of revenue as part of our own source revenue, we are also wary of the fact that when you tax people sometime overzealously, the results can be counterproductive.
Let's take a break on this note. It's 29 minutes to 8. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. The Honorable Philemon Sabule is the Speaker of the County Assembly of Elgeyo Marakwet. He's here today as also the Chairman of the County Assemblies Forum. We are talking about county assemblies and the importance of county assemblies, all 47 of them across the country.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Continues with the Honorable Philemon Sabule, the Speaker of the County Assembly of Elgeyo Marakwet and the Chair of the County Assemblies Forum, here to speak to us about the role of the County Assemblies Forum in entrenching devolution, in looking at the welfare of the county assemblies, and also he'll tell us about the legislative conference that is slated for this year and where it'll be and what it'll be focusing on. But, Honorable Speaker, one of the things that we hear about, for example, in the impeachment conversations that have taken place so far, one of the big ones was the Ward Development Fund. MCAs saying we also want a kitty to be able to go to the people with, and so the people can see that we are actually doing something on the ground, just like members of the National Assembly have the NGCDF. Okay, tell us about this Ward Development Fund. What's it all about?
There's been a long, clamor for Ward Development Fund. A number of county governments, one of them being Makueni, Nakuru, and Elgeyo Marakwet, and recently Uasin Gishu, have been able to enact their own county Ward Development Fund. For Elgeyo Marakwet, we are a bit lucky that since 2014, we've had Ward Development Fund, which is a very important legislation. We call it Equitable Development Act of Elgeyo Marakwet County Assembly. What that act does is to ensure that from the development vote in each year, there is a special formula that is used to allocate now further resources to each ward on equitable basis. And what this has done is to ensure that none of the wards is disenfranchised. None of the wards can say that they didn't have equal opportunity to advance development in each financial year. And what ward development does is to do away with what I would call secondary marginalization. Because in the national government, we devolve resources to a county, let's say County X. That County X may be having around 40 wards. It should not really be at the discretion of the county executive to determine how those resources are going to be devolved in those particular wards. And this is what happened. It is not like when you are passing budget, you pass as per the wards. You pass as per the sectors. You say roads, this much. So when the county executive go to implement that budget, they can easily skew in favor of 2 or 3 wards and to disadvantage other wards. So this is a very important piece of legislation which we are seeking to have uniformity of it across the country. We are not seeking for additional resources from national government or exchequer. We are just talking about the existing devolved funds. And we even don't want to dictate much on how much, but that it is mandatory for each county government to respect the need for ward development funds. They can have their own local legislation to determine the formula and to determine the percentages of allocation. For us, I think we do 60% in Elgeyo Marakwet.
60% of
60% is of the development vote.
So the development vote, already that's 30% of the county budget.
Yes, 60% of that 30%.
60% of that 30% goes to the various wards.
And the remaining still, of course, goes to the ward. But now for the county, projects, there are those projects which really are so key that you cannot say that, maybe construction of a referral hospital, it's for everyone. So there has to be that budget that now take care of those infrastructural developments for the entire county. Now, we have done much. When the president proposed to National Assembly and Senate that there be amendment of the Constitution, we were a little bit unhappy that there was an oversight on the need to also have Ward Development Fund entrenching the Constitution. We have made a petition to National Assembly and Senate. We have had a meeting with the respective speakers and chairs of JLAC, that is the Justice Legal Affairs Committee. They have seen sense and meaning to our arguments, and we shall be having a forum with them in due course. We are yet to receive invitation from them so that we can discuss further on how we can make it a progressive proposal, listening and also taking views of all other stakeholders.
How would this work, Bwana Speaker? If, let's say, 60% of the development vote in Elgeyo Marakwet County goes to the various wards. So each MCA sits with the people and they determine our areas of priority are this and that. So let's say it's a certain road here, it's a certain bridge there. How does that mirror with what the county executive is doing and what the CIDP is doing, what the ADP is doing? How do those work in? Because then it means that the governor has, the only money that's left with the governor is just for paying salaries. He does not have much money, or she does not have much money to actually bring the development that this governor went across the county campaigning that I'm going to do this and the other in my role as the chief executive of this county.
So one, I think a governor should not have any problem, because the wards in which those funds are taken to are the same wards which elected him. It is part of his government. It's part of his agenda. We don't do this as county assembly in exclusion of county executive. One, there is a CIDP. So even in county assembly appropriating those funds, it must fall within the CIDP, which has been approved. It must fall within ADP, Annual Development Plan. But how do we get CIDP and ADP? We robustly engage the people, and for us in Elgeyo Marakwet, we have Public Participation Act. We cannot do anything without satisfying ourselves that we have given meaningful engagement with the people, recreation and participation. So once we have CIDP that puts in the views of the people and that speaks to the needs of the people, we now break it down into 5 components, ADPs, year 1, year 2 to year 5 for that term. Within that financial year, priorities, it is the people. And for us, we do it. It's not just for the sake of formality. We really do it. Sit with the people. We have ward development committees that sit with the people and say, in this financial year, people, we had these priorities. Are we able to meet all these projects in a year? No. Which one can we do? These ones. And so even as a governor, really, you should be happy, that the county is progressing in a manner that development is guided by the people, which was the function and the purpose of devolution. 2, as I would want to say also, is that it is not really that the county assembly will take the entirety of the role. What we have always done is that the technical part of formulating CIDP and ADP also rests with the county executive. Only that once they engage the community and brings the documents to the county assembly, which also members of county assembly played a critical role, we also go back to the people in what we call validation. We talk to them, we agree with them. If the amendments to be made, then that's okay. And at the end of the day, it cannot just be said that the money that goes to the ward is just because of the effort of a member of county assembly. It's an entire effort of the leadership of that county, including the governor.
So even as looking, so there's many things we're looking at here. That there must be some kind of, welfare that the county assembly then would control in their wards. And we're saying that essentially this should come from the kitty that has already been awarded to, or that has been given to the county under the rulership of the governor, right? Now, would you then look at possibilities whereby, in combination with own source revenue and what is then readily available, could you see opportunities whereby so much more could be done towards the development of the county with then help from members of the county assembly?
Yes, I agree with you. I agree with you, because the cumulative processes in which members of county assembly engages the community during this process means that they have a very influential role in determining on how these decisions are done. They are very influential on how these projects are agreed upon, because at the end of the day, they are the leaders in the communities. Yeah. When they were asking for the votes, they promised. They said that this bridge has not been done since the creation of this hut. During my term of 5 years, I will do it. And so even when they come in, they will want to influence those infrastructural projects and development projects in line with the manifesto and what they told the people. Sometimes that can be a downside, because you could limit yourself so much on what you want to do just to validate the promises you gave. Yet those may not speak really to the needs.
The actual priorities.
The actual priorities. And one of them now being, how do we look at the allocation of these resources in a manner that we can still support the on-source revenue in our wards and generally in our county? And that speaks now to the capacities of the county assemblies and the capacity of leaders to look at things in a much more broader manner that supports the continuity of the community without really just limiting ourselves to the political gains that we may get as a result.
You know, many have argued that really, and I tend to agree, that the member of county assembly is actually the one that is closest to the people in terms of representation, that you're able to hear, that you're able to get the tone of the people in terms of actually what is needed, what is required. Do you think that MCAs and the assembly are actually living up to their full potential in what they can do to realize the representation of the people at the assembly level?
I think to the extent that we have strong fidelity to the needs of the people, engaging them, I think the answer would be yes. But there's a problem to that again. It is not always true. I know it's part of democracy that we engage the people, give them what they want. It is not always true that what people think they want is actually what they need. And, today they could say, in our village, we want this facility. And you will tell them, look at this. In the neighboring village, there is a very good health facility. If you were to take a motorbike or even walk, within half an hour, you are there. Why don't we do a different project, which can be used, commonly by the two villages, or which you can have better meaning because you already have another facility not far from where you are. And sometimes it's about politics. And politics is, how you reason with people, how you engage their minds, and it's a very delicate issue because sometimes we want to have guided public participation. You are saying you want this, but we have looked at it in a much more broader manner. We have engaged the experts. We have looked at the logical sense of these financial year projects, and we think this can be done. Now, strong leadership is being able to say no, even when majority of the people think that that is a populist way of doing things. If you know that at the end of the day, it will deliver better meaning and support to the communities.
When we're talking about development, county assemblies approve budgets. Now, many times we hear, even from the Auditor General's reports, that executives go ahead and overshoot the expenditure such that the mandatory 30% that should at least go to development is not even realized. What do county assemblies do to make sure there's adequate balance between recurrent expenditure, which is just hiring people for political expediency and paying salaries, and actual development spend?
We've had a big problem in counties on matters of financial discipline. At times we've passed our budgets, and you will come to realize later that the county executive continue to issue the LPOs and tenders, even on budgets which are not there. I have interacted with businessmen in these counties who have suffered immensely because they are issued with the tenders. There's no budget. They are not paid eventually, or it takes extremely long time before they are paid because we would have to come again and do the budgeting for the same. And I think some governors normally do this, or executives do this, hoping that they will collect more money in the local revenue, and in that case then they have a leeway to have an expenditure
to do this
without the high of the county assembly or other authorities in guiding them on how to do it. It's about the accountability issue. We've had during the first 5 years, and even part of the second, the county government, hirings and employments in crazy numbers. And the easiest way to make people happy in communities is to say, in a village that I came, I employed one of your sons here, and clap for you. They're so happy. They can't ask you whether you have budget for the same. They can't ask you whether there is need from the expertise position from that person you hire. They're very happy. People want to hire their friends, their relatives and such, and their supporters. And eventually, what is going to suffer is the public, because we end up putting resources in where there is no value out of it. What is the role of the county assembly? Sadly, sometimes the role of the county assembly comes much more later in time after the Auditor General has audited the books and realized that there is a problem. We try to cure, by giving some resolutions. Some of them really, in my own opinion, are not strong recourse enough to make the county government.
What do you need to make it stronger? Because we always ask this. So the PIC has scrutinized. I mean, the PAC has scrutinized the Auditor General's report, has come up with a recommendation that says we strongly recommend that the investigative authorities take up this matter. What would you like so that the county assembly?
My problem is this:
has teeth.
I don't want these processes to look like academic processes or just for formality. Why? The Auditor General does the audits. The county assemblies go through them. They make recommendations. Sometimes these matters are referred to the Senate. Senate summons the governor. They have a discussion. It is so much in the media. People are, fury about the issues. Then it dies from there. Yeah. I've never seen clear prosecution that follows. I've never seen people being told to account for those issues. And for a county assembly, we cannot arrest you, we cannot kill you, we cannot do anything. We just recommend. And sometimes we make very good reports, which are just good. That's the end of it. And as such, I agree with you that we still have a little bit of gaps, perhaps legislative, gaps that we can use as a country to make sure that just not governors, even ourselves, even as speakers, county assembly clerks and such, because we also have responsibility over the resources that are brought to us, that we are able to account, not just by naming and shaming, but by actually ensuring that you are prosecuted or you are made to account for that money, either you are surcharged or you repay back, or you are even barred from holding these public or state offices again.
Speaker, I've got to ask you this question because it's also another one in public domain. Yeah. As the County Assemblies Forum, one of the things that you would do is look at the welfare, like you told us, the welfare of the County Assembly members, MCAs. So, several issues that MCAs keep raising. Number one, the salary of a member of County Assembly. They say, surely, an MCA is paid 140,000 shillings in many of these counties. Deduct pesa ya KRA, deduct pesa ya nini, deduct pesa ya Assemblies Forum, deduct pesa ya SACCO, deduct pesa. MCA is left with nothing. And like you told us, that is the same MCA who is expected to do all these things higher. So, issue of the MCA salaries is that one issue that the County Assemblies Forum advocates. The second one is the issue of car grants. So MCAs, like you said, County Assembly is a mirror of the National Assembly. Hapa juu, MP Salasia is given a car grant.
7 million.
7 million shillings. Nyumba. Nini. MCA apewi na ile anapewa inachukuliwa na KRA.
First, the salary of an MCA is not 144, it's 86,000. The basic salary of a member of County Assembly is 86,000.
What?
86,000 Kenya shillings per month.
Yes.
How did they arrive at this?
We have a serious discussion with the SRC, and I keep asking, really, are we trying to set MCAs for failure? Is this the weakest point in which, when you want to reduce expenditures in government, you make it easy by pressing down the members of County Assembly? But that is it, Prof. The basic salary of an MCA is 86,000. An MCA is like a member of National Assembly at the national level. But you realize the member of County Assembly earns much more lesser than even some of the staff in the County Assembly. Quite pathetic. They pass, they approve CCs who end up earning 4 times the much they earned. The chief officers, the directors, and such. Yet you look at the cumulative responsibilities that they hold. Not even the issue of the social issue that I mentioned. Now, the statutory roles that they legislative play. This is somebody
oversight
who, in case governor fails, they're supposed to put the governor to account. This should be somebody who is strong in that particular government. These are people who vet the CCs, the CUs. They do the oversight role, when there is a poorly done road or there is a wastage of resources, this is an officer in the government, a state officer for that matter, whom you want to be the watchdog and protector of the public resources.
What does the SRC say when you ask them about this computation of this salary?
Now, when we met with, of course, we met with SRC, it has almost become like a song because SRC now will want to ride on the fact that there is high wage bill in the country, there's no resources. So it becomes a very easy scapegoat, Prof.
There are
there's no justification at all.
1,450 MCAs.
Yeah, there are many MCAs.
You double this, how much does that cost?
And you will hear there is an employment of 50 CSs. Yet we have people who have very specific mandates in the
elected
counties.
by the people.
Two, look at even what happens in the National Assembly. When they have the car grant, it has never been there for the county assemblies. This is the first time we are having it, but ours, or for the members of county assemblies, it is not car grant, it is car reimbursement. What that means is there is a high obligation for a member to get that money. What you are required to do, you go and buy a vehicle, bring us a proof of payment, bring us the logbook, bring us the invoices, and then we will reimburse you that money, but not exceeding 2.2. So if you buy a vehicle of 2.5, we'll refund you 2.2. If you buy a vehicle of 2 million, we'll give you 2 million. So there's a high requirement of a member of county assembly to get that money. Yeah. For a member of a national assembly, you just get there, you sign your oath of office,
you get the money
in your account. Yet, when a member of national assembly gets is 7.2 million, the one for a member of county assembly 2.2, KRA comes calling, and they want 650,000 from the same
from
amount,
the 2.2.
From 2.2.
So your grant
that brings
is
it back
1.
again
6.
to 1.5. The question is, even on an issue of uniformity, why discriminate on a member of county assembly just because you feel like their voice is smaller?
Actually, it's much worse than that. Yeah. When you say set up for failure, you're completely disempowered.
Correct.
And yet, without the MCAs, many of these members of parliament wouldn't have their seats. Because these are the people they need, who support the need to be able to galvanize the Wananchi. Because they're the people whom the Wananchi actually are in touch with on a daily basis. No, it's deliberate. I
think
it's 10 years down the line, and this is the discussion we're having.
Yeah.
It reminds me of the days when we had councillors. They were paid something so measly you couldn't believe. When you were told what they earned, it was ridiculous.
That's why they were just treated as, campaign managers for the MP.
Yes.
As we conclude, Bona Speaker, the legislative conference that's taking place on the 14th of May, tell us about it in about 40 seconds.
The legislative summit is coming this year, mid-May. We have had discussion with the presidency, and I think we'll be doing it on 15th, 16th, and 17th, unless anything changes. Today, in fact, in the next 2 hours, we are having a meeting with the Senate because there's what we call joint steering committee that brings 4 senators and the leadership of CAF together in planning for the same. We shall be holding that event of all the senators and members of county assembly. We want to look at the 10 years of devolution. What are the legislative progresses which have been made for those 10 years, the challenges, opportunities, and to bring all the stakeholders from the National Assembly, the national government, and Senate and county assemblies to ensure that we look back and grow and strengthen devolution in this country.
We want to walk that journey with you. I mean, it's an interesting one. As people who converse about devolution here on a daily basis, we will walk that journey with you. 14th of May is when the legislative, you're calling it summit, of the County Assemblies Forum will take place. Thank you very much, Bona Speaker, for joining us.
Nashukuru sana.
The Speaker of the County Assembly of Elgeyo Marakwet County, Philemon Sabule, is also the chairman of the County Assemblies Forum. He's been here with us, and he'll be back soon to talk more about the role of the county assemblies.